Hi, this is Natalie Lander, voice of Kinsey, Tara Branford, Stargirl, and many others. You are listening to a W2Mnet podcast. You can visit W2Mnet.com for other podcasts about entertainment, video games, sports, and wrestling.
Okay, well, these are a little bit familiar surroundings. It almost feels like it's been a while since I've been back behind the microphone. But for those tuning in and hearing my dulcet tones expecting an episode of the kickoff, well, that's going to be a story for another podcast. Details about that coming soon. But for those of you who, while you really came here for the long-awaited return of Soccer to the Max, it has officially arrived. I am the still mostly eccentric, not full-blown crazy Eric Watkins, and naturally, because I couldn't possibly do this alone, what's the best adjective? Graduate? Gainfully employed? Rachel McCreeger? You may want to help me out here a little bit.
Well, listen, I'm still hesitant, although I know I'm safe about the graduate thing. But of course, you know that feeling. My teacher checked my final paper, which I was so nervous about. Actually had a friend from college look over it for me for grammar and everything just to be safe. And he graded it, sent it back to me, got a B on the paper. I was like, oh, woohoo. And that was on Tuesday, I think, and he still hasn't put my actual final grade in. And I know darn well that technically final grades are due on the 23rd. I know he's going to make me sweat it out. I know he is because, you know what? I'll save the rant about him for when I actually have the diploma in my hands.
Fair enough. I had to go on a similar rant, and needless to say, passing by the skin of my teeth was a conversation, but I know how you feel, most definitely. But, speaking about things that were a lot more decisive, while we've been gone, MLS both restarted and wrapped up their season, and I gotta say, I'm sorry, Rachel, but I am not a big fan of your Sounders right now because they messed up a very good rant that I had in mind.
Dang. I would have loved to have heard it too.
Well, it was a whole thing, especially in the conference final. It's 2-0. It's the 75th minute. It's Minnesota, which was a whole big thing. Adrian Heath, which was another whole big thing. And I had tied them all together, and everything was great. And then, basically, Seattle happened. Rui Diaz, Reynoso. I still can't explain it.
Neither can I, but that's why we say the word chaos at least more than 5 times on this show.
This is true. And to further the chaos, that was only Seattle getting to MLS Cup, the final, and then Columbus and MAPFRE Stadium, one for the road, everything that's happened with them this season. What did they do but just put on a world-class performance and take the trophy home?
Yeah, I mean, listen, as somebody coming from the Sounders point of view, it wasn't a good day at the office for the team. And, I saw a lot of people saying, well, Seattle doesn't usually play well when they have to travel cross country across the state and on short rest. And yes, it is true. Columbus got a longer rest, an extra day or two, I think it was 2 days of rest. And, they were at home, so that's definitely an advantage. But honestly, I mean, Columbus just played better. Lucas Zelarayan was amazing. He was lights out for them. And, goalkeeper Eloy Room was really good. Jossie Zardes did what he needed to do. He was a playmaker. And, they did all of that without Darlington Nagbe and it was Pedro Santos, too, who both tested positive for COVID. So, yeah, the Seattle Sounders were a little jet lagged, I think. They were missing Javier Arriaga, who, by the way, congratulations on the birth of his baby daughter.
Aww.
And sweet little Ivana. Love her already. And I guess after the game, they were, Brian Schmetzer came out and said, Nico Lodero was playing injured. Which it's like, I understand why you would still play him because he is Nico. He was MVP caliber this season. Like, he is just... he's the guy. That's why they just re-signed him through 2023, and that was their top priority this season. He got a contract before Schmetzer got his contract. But at the same time, you have other players that you can play. Jovan Jones was not good in that game. Like, I really went back and watched the film on the first goal, and everyone was kind of screaming and yelling at Alex Roldan, like, oh, he didn't do enough. But, like, Jovan Jones basically gave up on the play and just pointed at Zella Ryan and at Alex Roldan, like, oh, you, go ahead, go get him. Like, no, you're supposed to help. You're on the right. You're supposed to help cover him. But anyway, I digress. Columbus played a complete game. And, as somebody who's in close proximity to Columbus and as somebody who does appreciate the team, I always joke and say that, Seattle is my team through and through, but geographically, Columbus is my team. So it was a win-win for me either way. I was really, 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 really happy for the fans more than anything. Like, yes, I'm happy for the players. It's cool to see someone like Jossie Zardes get another ring. It's cool to see Lucas Zelarayan get a ring, Eloy Room. But I was really excited for the fans because all the crap that they went through the past, 2-3 years, take that, Anthony Precourt.
Yeah, and right on the heels of, Austin FC, and we're going to have our expansion, where they picked up a couple of solid players, and we'll talk about that too, don't get me wrong, but it was just, first of all, for the fact that there were actually fans who were able to be there, revel in the moment, and second of all, you're right, in looking at that game from start to finish, granted, it helps that the fact that the goal that made it 2-0 was a total worldie. But it was just, Columbus is like, all right, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to control. And then, as you said, you had Zardes. He was basically the communicator once they got into their attacking half, setting up Zelarayan and so many others. And defensively, it was just taking a matter of, I guess the best way for me to put it was just Seattle breaking down. It's like, couldn't get much done off of set pieces. They were covered well. Couldn't get touches for, Jordan Morris. It's pretty much stopping him at all angles. Their keeper stepped up. It was just like, I thought, once it was 2-0, and once it got to that 75th minute, it's like, okay, Seattle seems like they're going to turn it on just like they did against Minnesota in the conference final. But Columbus just did not allow it. And then when the Crew scored their third, it's like, well, there goes that. It was just done.
Yeah, and I think this is something that I mentioned to Matt and Dan, our friends over at Last Word on Soccer. I think Minnesota, even though they lost against Seattle in the conference final, I think they really gave Columbus the blueprint on how to beat the Sounders.
Mm-hmm.
Because for the longest time, Minnesota was doing a good job silencing and keeping the ball away from the front three, the three for Seattle who made the best 11 for the MLS, Raul Ruidiaz, Nico Lodero, and Jordan Morris. And at the end, Minnesota kind of just gave up. Maybe they were tired. I don't know what the whole thing was. But for the most part, I think that Columbus looked at the film from that game and was like, wow, they really gave us the blueprint for how to stop Seattle. And, I like Alex Roldan. I think he is a good right back. And this is going to turn into a mini rant, so bear with me.
Kelvin Leerdam.
Kelvin Leerdam did nothing to get benched. The only thing that happened was that he got injured and Alex Roldan was playing good. But Kelvin has, his 2019 season was ridiculous. And his 2020 season wasn't that bad. At the beginning, it was a little shaky, and it was kind of understandable because he was the only returning player from that championship defense. Um, because Javier Arriaga didn't really start last year. So you're kind of starting brand new with Arriaga and Ymar and Nuhu. And it might sound crazy to add Nuhu, but Nuhu wasn't a starter last year. This year he was. Um, when Brad Smith came back, it was like, okay, things are starting to improve. You can see a little bit more cohesion on the defense. Not to knock Nuhu, because Nuhu really grew into the role as the year went on. But Brad Smith was pretty much injured this whole year that he returned to the Sounders. So I think, Kelvin, for the most part, I mean, he did nothing in my eyes to warrant being benched. I really thought that he was going to start in the final, and I was really surprised when he didn't. And I think Seattle is going to be kicking themselves in the face because now he's a free agent. Somebody could come in, scoop up, and sign him. And I don't think I see the Sounders. I can see him going somewhere else and being like, maybe another team is going to value me more. Maybe he might go back to the Eredivisie in the Netherlands. I mean, he could really go anywhere. He's a very quality right back. And then, I mean, if Alex Roldan is your right back for the future, then cool, get him some good starts under his belt. But I don't see him starting like out of the gate in 2021 being like firing on all cylinders. Like, he's going to have some struggles, I think. And that's totally normal. I think they're both good players, but in my eyes, I mean, I rate Kelvin Leerdam higher. And to me, the Sounders just kind of letting him walk away, I think that's really going to hurt them in 2021.
And I mean, even at a minimum, with a position as key as right back, you would want to appreciate depth. And even if Roldan is your right back for the future, that's fine. If you had more of a full season, granted they only played about 20 matches, okay, I could have seen a plan develop to kind of transition into Roldan being the guy. But you're absolutely right. They botched this, and it really showed, because what is this normally one line, very solid back four, it was just torn apart, and it seemed much more disorganized than even I'm used to seeing.
Yeah, I think that the end of the year press conference, Garth Lagerwey basically said we are going to be getting younger next year because we just don't have the money to bring everybody back. And so I think there's going to be a lot of inexperience next year, and it's kind of weird to say, but like Ymar and Arriaga are basically going to be your veterans next year on that defense.
Yeah, well, I mean, if any of those talents, I can think of a couple of places that could really, really use them. One of them had a rather ignominious playoff exit, I'm just saying. Just the first time, and everything was going so well in that match, and then the tackle, and then Nani doing everything with the ref, and then missing the I mean, do they have to wait this long to actually disappoint me? Could they have not have given me at least a little bit of hope? Finally, DC United listened. Why couldn't... another rough season in the books, that's all I'm saying.
With lots of chaos.
Yeah.
CC Nani.
Just let the man go. It just... You didn't have to... Oh, why? Just why me? Why me? I have to ask myself this sometimes.
Hey, you got Ben Olsen out of DC United. You only get one a year.
Okay, fine, but couldn't they make it like 1.5 and give me a little something extra with Orlando too? I know DC, it's going to take a while to sort out. I don't know. It just now I'm waiting. Now that this is done, congratulations to Columbus, and now to the next phase that we had mentioned with Austin, and their expansion draft, which is, well, I have to say, looking at it, kind of typical. You get your couple of key pieces, you get a few others, make some trades, get your trade bait, and then in essence, the real building begins after this.
Yeah, Austin had a lot of moves. I mean, even before the expansion draft, I think picking up Nick Lima is good because I think like him and Matias Almeida just kind of aren't on the same page in San Jose. So I think a new start will be good for him. But like, I can't believe that the Los Angeles Galaxy let Joe Corona go. I think he's such a good player. And yeah, he didn't fit GBS's system, but cough cough when Greg Vanney gets in there, I think like I thought that would have been a great little marriage. But I mean, Austin really, picked up a gold mine with that pick in itself. I was really surprised that they picked Brady Scott, the goalkeeper, the backup goalkeeper out of Nashville, over Andrew Tarbell, who really stepped up for Columbus in the playoffs. And then Danny Hosen was the other pick that I can't say too much about Jared Stroud because I don't know much about him from the Red Bulls. And then Kamal Miller's going to Montreal. But Danny Hosen, I think he could be a starter on the team, but I don't know if his breathing room is a lot.
And then that's the rub because normally, even with expansion drafts, you figure, okay, you can kind of see what identity a team is going to have. And with Austin, aside from, as you said, the star pick of Joe Corona, which is going to be extremely interesting in how they're going to promote him in the Austin market, that more than anything, it's like, what are you really doing? What are you trying to show how you're going to compete, especially in what I would assume would be a still significantly stacked Western Conference?
Yeah, Austin Austin doesn't have a favorable conference. But like I was telling, Matt and Dan last night that I mean, if you look at Austin, I think they're kind of a mini Nashville in the sense of it's such a ragtag team of like random dudes from MLS. But look at what Nashville did in the playoffs. I
Mm.
mean, Austin has the ability to shock. I don't know if they're going to do it, but I think they have the ability at least.
Yeah, but even then, Nashville, they kind of caught a break, especially by competing the rest of the season in the East. So I am taking that, and no, this isn't my Nashville bias, at least not now. Kind of, sort of, maybe not. But admittedly, they did catch a break by competing the rest of the season in the East, and I think that propelled them, and especially with their stellar defense. So I don't know if they're even going to kind of replicate that level of success again, assuming we have a full and normal season in 21.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I do see that with Nashville, but at the same time, I think they kind of just like I don't know what Gary Smith said to them, but it was something good.
And believe me, kudos to them. And if anything, I would hope he takes this and it's like, all right, this is what we were able to do this year, and maybe help find something to bolster that pretty anemic offense, get a few extra goals. Because if they can at least keep that defensive posture and come close to that level of defensive stature that they did, they could easily have another playoff run in 21. I can't believe those words came out of my mouth, but here we are.
I was gonna say how much did it take for you to say that?
Okay, I'm for the record, I have not gone a full 180 on Nashville, but if you had me look at this and everything holistically, and this is for all my math nerds out there, it's not 180, it's 3 pi over 5. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Good on you for trying.
I gotta give some credit. Now let's see if they can do it again and actually play a little bit more of entertaining football all throughout instead of half the time putting me to sleep. Well, on another little bit of good news and some announcements that were made tonight based upon the heels of everything with the men's national team, and we're going to get to that next. There was the announcement of U.S. Male Player of the Year. I'm not shocked at who won. I'm shocked at who came in third, especially with their recent form over the last month or two.
Who came in third? I didn't even see the listing.
It was McKinney who won it with 44%, Pulisic at 29%, and Serginho Dest came in third. I was like, just scraping by with double digits? That didn't entirely make sense to me.
I can't believe that Pulisic is over Jordan Morris.
Well, if you look at the highest of highs in what they did with their clubs, yes, once he's on the pitch, Pulisic has done magical things for Chelsea, fitting in very well in Frank Lampard's system. Look at where Chelsea is, especially in the Champions League. Far and away, McKinney's been better, especially with the old lady in Italy and what Juventus is doing. But you're right. It's like, with how Barcelona is, being carried by Messi and everything else, for Serginho Dest to not only come in and start and contribute, and then do all of these things in both La Liga and Champions League himself, I think that's a bit more notice, especially since he's able to do this more consistently while Pulisic is injury prone. I hate to put that label on him, but he's proving it for this season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone can really go against Weston McKennie right now because of how good he's been. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that front. Like Christian's just been too injured for me. And like, I mean, one of the things that like is being talked about for the women's side is like, for Kristen Press, like, oh, should we punish her for missing out on the Challenge Cup and opting out because she was afraid of COVID? Like, no, you shouldn't, but there are definitely people who have played better and who did actually play in those games. So there's a difference between rewarding and punishing.
Right.
And for like Pulisic and everything, I'm surprised he was so high up because I know I'm biased with the Sounders, but I would have rewarded Jordan Morris because, he wasn't named best 11 in MLS for nothing.
And I mean, not just like a naming best 11, how he really, not entirely spearheaded the Sounders offense, but came pretty close. And then, was he in one of those two U.S. friendlies? Trying to remember.
He definitely wasn't in the last one. No, I don't think he was because the first one was just European based and he was with the Sounders, and then, Sounders qualified for MLS Cup, so Greg didn't call up him or Christian Roldan or Stephen Fry.
Okay. Because I was thinking about that. It's like, as I know, the friendly getting to against Wales, which will be a bit intriguing, and then against Panama, it's like, okay. Yeah, so I can't say with who won it, they got it wrong, but I'm on your side. The order after that, and that's probably going to put into some also equally interesting plot lines if we have a January camp for the U.S. national team.
Yeah, that January camp's going to be interesting to see if if like Greg just sticks with MLS players like he usually does.
Well, because I mean, with the whole dynamic with this year, and they talked about this during the friendlies themselves, it's not going to be a typical year where you have the one big tournament to focus on, and then you maybe have one little thing that's ancillary. No, you've got Olympic qualifying, which we're actually trying to get to Tokyo this year. You've got everything with wrapping up the Nations League, which even though it's only 2 matches, those are very important matches. Going into the Gold Cup, going into World Cup qualifying. So you're realistically talking about, instead of, you can maybe get away 22, 25 players and kind of mix and match, you're going to need at least 40, 50, maybe even 60 to have 3 22s and then pick and see, all right, who gets to be in each 22.
Yeah, I think Greg has a lot of really interesting decisions to make. I don't envy his job.
And not in a year like this. I'm automatically going to cut him a break because he's been dealt something really rough with everything that he has to do and everything that's expected of the U.S. We're expected to win a Nations League. We're expected to do very well, if not flat out win the Octag to get to the World Cup. We're expected to win or at least get to the Gold Cup finals. So, he's got a lot on his plate. A lot of good signs, but a lot on his plate. I don't know, though. I mean, maybe it's me, but I think with everything else, I'm kind of tempering things a little bit. If we don't win the World Cup and have a good performance, I won't be mad. If we get to the Olympics, I would actually be shocked. My main thing is righting the wrongs that I warned everybody about and getting back to the World Cup. Everything else is just kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, it's weird to say because, well, I mean, let me retract. I think that qualifying for the World Cup is obviously the most important thing, but like if you're putting things up, like stacking things up against each other, I would put like qualifying for the Olympics, doing well at the Olympics up higher than doing well at the World Cup, because that's where like all your youth is, like the youth is going to, this youthful roster and all that stuff is awesome. Like it's really great to see the new faces and to get new talent, but on a world stage against like veterans who have maybe been to 2-3 World Cups, it's not going to be easy.
Right.
By any means. So if there's like some nerves and some faltering, like, yeah, I could understand maybe not, going to the round of 16 and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I would give it a pass at least.
Yeah, and for something like this, I mean, if we wind up, if I had to put a floor, getting to the World Cup being assumed, if we can get 2 or 3 points, or at least some sort of quality result, and we wind up not getting to the round of 16, I would be okay with that too. Because we got there, and especially with a weird World Cup setting that's going to be in Qatar after all of this, everybody's going to be kind of weird, and there's going to be maybe some sort of weird World Cup winner. I don't know. But I'm not going to say, oh, because we didn't get to the knockout stage, or, oh, because this was in this country and we could have made a deeper run and yada yada. I'm not going to stress about that at all. Getting there, fine for me, and then start looking ahead really to 2026.
Yeah, I agree, because you want to have a good showing at home.
Yeah, and especially because that's the one that's really going to be expanded, so you don't have any excuses. But I did want to talk about with that these friendlies, because I'm sorry, even though that was a crushing performance against Panama, my main focus was how we did against Wales, and I thought we could have come away with at least a little something. I thought we were doing better than just like that, whatever that was.
Yeah, I thought the Wales game was interesting. Really thought the U.S. could have come out with some points. I think it was just one of those games where Wales had a better chance, and so they took it and they won.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, granted, yes, it's not like, oh, we were humiliated. I mean, it was just like a 1-0, but it's like, for something like that, and you really have a lot of your top European talent as well, it's like, these are the games you kind of want to see and you somewhat expect with all of the combined club form. All right, maybe snatch a draw, maybe get a gritty win. So I was slightly disappointed. But then turning around to the Panama game, it's like bit of a slow start, but I'm not going to sit here and go crazy because we steamrolled them. It's like, this is what we were expected to do.
Yeah, I mean, the Panama team that played, I think, is so much different than the Panama team that qualified for the World Cup like 4 years ago. Panama is kind of in a rebuild, and I think it's showing. We're also kind of in a rebuild too, but like, I just think we have better choices than they do.
Yeah, we've got better choices. We've got better talent to rebuild with and reorganize. Whereas with Panama, you could almost say that with that World Cup team, loaded with veterans, who a lot of them, it was their last shot, and they didn't have that bridge in between building up their next generation like we do. I'm curious to see them in the next iteration of the Nations League, and also as things go on towards the Gold Cup, because while they may be something of like CONCACAF minnows now, I'm wondering where they're going to be a year from now. See if they're going to be extra potential competitors alongside Mexico and Costa Rica, or are they just going to be another one of those also-rans as well?
I think Mexico's kind of untouchable right now, but I think the Costa Rica thing is pretty viable.
Yeah, because with all of those, I mean, you know, when you have your connections with Los Ticos, they're never a team I can fully take for granted. And I think if Panama gets on that level, you're going to going to create a very interesting CONCACAF top four, if you will. So, it's a lot of interesting moments, but one thing I did appreciate as far as the selection strategy, especially against Panama, a lot of players got some very good debuts, which is great, and this shows me that Berhalter is thinking ahead to, all right, this is what I'm going to need, this is how many I'm going to need, let me try to throw a lot at the wall and really see what I have.
Yeah, and I mean, it's really this year, it's what do you got to lose? You're not qualifying. You're not doing any of that stuff. Tinker with the lineup. See what you like and tinker with formations. This is the time for, both Greg Berhalter and Vlatko. I just totally blanked on his name. And Vlatko Andonovski to really tinker with their stuff. We've seen it more with Greg than we have with Vlatko. But we have seen it with both. So it's exciting because you're seeing new things and it's like, oh yeah, that looks good. Or maybe, I don't know about that, Greg. I don't know about that, Vlatko. So I think a lot of that is going to carry over. Like, for example, for the women, Christy Mewis should 100% get called up to more camps next year. She should be in Olympic contention.
Agreed.
For the men, some of these younger MLS guys like, Chris Mueller and who's the guy that plays at Barcelona that isn't Dest? Conrad Laflante or something like that?
Something like that weird last name. I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah, somebody at Barcelona who is at Serginho Dest. But it's like, there's stuff that's going to carry over. It's not just like Greg testing and, Vlatko testing stuff out and it having no avail.
Right, and I know Vlatko is really cheering right now, especially for how a lot of our talent is tearing it up in England. Glad to see at least one version of the Manchester United team doing something, even though kind of getting screwed in one competition, but that's not important right now. Stupid tiebreakers. Anyways. See, I don't know what it's like not to be disappointed by one of my teams in one way or another. Can't I just, of all the times, can't I just get a pass now? Just one?
That would be too easy.
But look at what I've been through already, and especially this year. I want easy. Doesn't have to be permanent, just want, Manchester United men, Manchester United women, DC and Orlando, kind kind of not making me bite my nails all the time. I'm not asking for a lot of trophies, just, less misery. The life I lead sometimes. Well, I think that actually just about covers everything unless I'm missing something.
Not really, but I want to give a shout out to
All right.
Megan Rapinoe because everyone knows she's like the most woke human being in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But so yesterday they announced the best awards for FIFA,
Mm-hmm.
and like nobody, you can tell people at FIFA don't pay attention to the women's game. Megan Rapinoe hasn't played since March 2020, and she maybe got 200 or less than 200 minutes. So while people were screaming and, complaining about Megan Rapinoe, she came out with a really good statement, and I'm going to read the whole thing because I think it's important. She said, "I am obviously very honored to have been recognized by my peers around the world who vote for the FIFPro World 11. At the same time, it did come as a surprise to me that I even met the criteria for selection, as I haven't played in a match since March 2021. Here I come. We have so many phenomenal female players around the world, and all of us need to do what we can to recognize them. The fact that I was selected once again sheds light on the fact that in order to push our game forward, we need continued investment in the women's game to give more female players the opportunity to be seen on TV in their home countries and globally while performing for club and country. The future of our game is so bright. The potential is limitless, and our commitment to pushing it forward from every possible angle has to match that. Again, I'm honored and flattered to have been recognized by my peers for this honor, and I look forward to getting back on the field in 2021. Congratulations to the incredible women selected in the best 11. Here's to another groundbreaking year in women's football." So, people love to go on the attack to her and yell at her because, Megan Rapinoe totally decided to give this honor to herself. So as somebody who has a big platform, who is well respected, and who knows she has a voice, it's really awesome to hear her say, basically, for $1, name a woman that isn't me, and to shed light on those who have played this year, and once again, going back to that reward versus punishing thing, who should be rewarded for playing well this year. So I give all the credit in the world to Megan Rapinoe for coming out with that statement and just shedding light on women's soccer.
Absolutely, because it's only just now that we, especially here in the U.S., have really been interested, even on the financial side, of the women's game. Am I glad that I can start to see more women's FA Super League matches from over in England? Absolutely. I think it should have been done a while back. Am I glad to see the game grow and be taken more seriously in a lot of these top-tier European countries? I certainly am. I think it's great. And I think that it shouldn't have just been spawned by the World Cup in France. It's something that should have happened a long time ago. And with someone like Megan Rapinoe, who already has all of her awards, already is focusing not only on getting back on the pitch, continuing her stellar career, but her magnificent things that she's doing off the pitch soon. Like a biopic that's going to be coming out, her supporting Superb, joining her in the bubble and their engagement, everything is great. So it's like, this is the way that a lot of athletes are criticized, but this is the way athletes should do it. Using this voice, using this platform in the best way possible, while you have it, using it like this, hey, I am entirely on board. There's a couple of players that I've seen bits of and do some research. I do think got the shaft, and hopefully FIFA will learn their lesson from this. So this was definitely, I gotta give a shout out to her for that too. Very well done, and in a very typical kind of Rapinoe way.
Oh yeah, being so eloquent, but at the same time saying like, "You suck. Pay attention."
Exactly. Throwing shade in the nicest way possible.
Megan Rapinoe is the queen of fake it till you make it.
So, yeah, I think that will just about cover it. Yes, I know a little other short and sweet episode, but it's 2020. We're back, and yes, I have teased this long enough, and I would like to think we delivered. I feel like we have.
This is a very 2020 episode. We're dipping our toes back in the water as we're getting back into it.
And then, if everything's not radioactive, or we don't get any kind of giant sea monster or surprise invasion to end the year, then we can look to 2021 and really getting back on our feet.
I think you just jinxed it.
Look, I know it's the 18th. I'm not the first one to mention this. I've taken into account all of the monoliths that appeared in Utah and places around Europe. I said it then. Nothing happened so far. I think I'm at least somewhat safe. But again, I still understand there's a couple weeks left. So, on that note, before I do any more damage, Rachel, can they find you on social media and elsewhere?
You can find me on Twitter at Rachel Kruger. There are 2 A's in my name, not just one. And hopefully the next time we talk, I actually have confirmation of the master's degree. So, fingers crossed.
I'll cross my fingers because that way, once you officially have it, you will definitely one up me, and that's a good thing. And for me, you can find me, as always, on Twitter at SquidSportsHead. You can also find me on Facebook and look for Eric Watkins, the guy in the recliner next to the pile of laundry holding a glass of wine. We were talking about a few other different things. I've got a couple other stuff in the works that I've basically been trying to do some wheeling and dealing. And again, for those of you who also listen to the kickoff, which I am on, do not fret. We haven't quite gone anywhere, but expect a bit of a kind of condensed version over the rest of the holidays. And again, I'll get together with the guys and we'll fill you in on those details. But for now, this has been Soccer to the Max, and, well, 2020's almost over. At least we've gotten some good football out of it.
That we have.
All right. Until next time, for myself and Rachel, don't forget, everybody, stay safe, Okay, there was something that I really had there, and that just kind of
Wear a
messed up in my
damn
head.
mask.
Yes, wear a mask, hand sanitizer, social distance, all of that stuff. And when the time comes, get vaccinated.